My fiancé slept with a coworker while pretending we were perfect, so I walked away quietly and left her to explain her betrayal alone. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and I really thought I'd found my forever person. Her name's Elena. We met at a mutual friends game night 3 years ago, and from the moment she smiled at me across the table, shy but confident, I was done. She was the kind of woman you imagine building a life with, not just dating, not just seeing where it goes. No, building. And that's exactly what I thought we were doing. 6 months ago, I proposed. It wasn't anything flashy, just me, her favorite Thai food, and a quiet rooftop view of the city we both loved. She said yes with tears in her eyes. She posted a boomerang of the ring later that night with the caption, "Can't wait to marry my best friend." Since then, I've been grinding, hard, picking up overtime shifts at work, reworking my budget so we could afford a better venue. I even covered the $5,000 deposit myself because she said her savings were tied up. No big deal. I didn't mind. That's what partnership is, or so I thought. She, on the other hand, handled the aesthetics. Florist, colors, Instagram boards. She'd hold up her phone showing me dresses and say things like, "We're going to have the most beautiful wedding ever." I'd nod and smile, exhausted, but proud. I loved seeing her happy, but lately, I felt something off, nothing obvious, just silences that lasted a beat too long, smiles that didn't reach her eyes, nights where she'd fall asleep facing the wall instead of curling into me like she used to. I kept telling myself it was wedding stress. But deep down, something didn't feel right, and I didn't realize it then, but that quiet voice in my gut, it was already screaming. It started with her saying she needed a little space. She came home from work one Tuesday, tossed her bag on the counter, and said it casually, like she was asking for takeout instead of rearranging the foundation of our relationship. "I think I need a few days at my sister's," she said, not meeting my eyes. "It's just..." The wedding, the planning, the pressure. I need to clear my head. I was stunned. Not angry and just confused. "Did I do something?" I asked, trying to stay calm. She shook her head quickly. "No, babe. You've been amazing. It's me. I just feel overwhelmed." So I helped her pack. Literally. Folded her favorite hoodie. Made sure she had her charger. I even told her to take her time, that I supported her, and that I just wanted her to feel okay again. She kissed my cheek and said, "You really are the best, you know that?" But something about it felt performative, scripted. The next night, I sent her a goodnight text. She didn't respond until the next morning, and even then, just a morning with no context. I brushed it off. She's decompressing, I told myself, but then came Friday. Her sister posted a story of her night out. Loud bar, flashing lights, clinking glasses. At first, I didn't think much of it. Then I saw it. A blur in the background. A woman in a leather jacket that looked exactly like Elena's. And beside her, a man, close, laughing, hands way too familiar for a friend. I rewatched the clip 3 times. My stomach twisted, but my brain argued. It's not her. It's just a similar outfit. A coincidence, but my gut wasn't buying it, and neither was I. I tried to act normal that weekend. I really did. She texted me the next day like nothing happened. "Had a good sleep. Miss you." And I replied with the same fake energy. But behind the screen I was spinning, overthinking, replaying that grainy Instagram story like it was a crime scene. The leather jacket. The laugh. The way the guy leaned into her like he belonged there. I didn't want to be that guy. The jealous, insecure fiancé who accuses his partner over a blurry video. But I couldn't shake it, so I texted her sister casually. "Hey, how's Elena doing?" The reply came back fast. "She's not here, LOL. Thought she was with you." My heart dropped. I stared at the message for a full minute, like the words might change if I blinked enough. When Elena finally called that night, I kept my tone light. "So how's your sister doing?" There was a pause. "She's good," she said slowly. "We're just chilling. Watching old movies. I could feel my chest tightening." "What did you watch?" Notting Hill," she said. "Why?" I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just muttered, "No reason," and let her keep talking. She lied so easily, so smoothly, that I started questioning my own sanity. Maybe I misread the message. Maybe her sister meant she wasn't home at the moment. Not that Elena wasn't staying there. Maybe. But the trust was already cracking, and the cracks were getting louder. I couldn't stop thinking about that guy in the video. Something about his posture and the way he leaned in like he'd done it before stuck with me, and that's when it hit me. Ryan. Elena's funny work bestie, the guy whose name came up a little too often. Ryan said this. Ryan made the funniest meme today. Ryan fixed the coffee machine and saved the office. I used to laugh it off. I wasn't insecure, I trusted her. At least I thought I did. But now, every time his name echoed in my memory, it felt loaded. I remembered one night. We were at a company dinner, and Ryan was there. Clean cut, cocky smile, expensive watch. He shook my hand like he was doing me a favor. The way he looked at Elena, it wasn't professional. It wasn't subtle either. But when I brought it up later, she laughed. You're imagining things, she said, resting her head on my shoulder. He's just friendly, yeah, friendly. I started scrolling through her old Instagram posts looking for something, anything. In one group photo from a few months ago, everyone had their arms around the person next to them. Elena? She was next to Ryan. Their bodies barely touched, but his hand was resting low on her back, subtle but too familiar. I zoomed in, heart racing. Why didn't I see this before? Why didn't I want to see it? It's amazing how your mind filters what your heart isn't ready to process. But once the seed of doubt is planted, it grows fast, and I was already choking on the vines. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every time she'd smiled at her phone and said, just Ryan being stupid, or every night she stayed. Late at the office during quarter-end crunch, my head was a storm of what-ifs, and I needed something concrete. So I opened our shared phone account. We'd added her line to my plan last year to save money. I never paid it much attention. But this time I dug, and what I found? Nearly 200 texts exchanged in a single weekend, most of them between midnight and 2 a.m., all with one number. I copy-pasted it into WhatsApp. His profile photo popped up instantly. Ryan. I felt sick. Scrolling further back, I saw the same number pop up over and over again, during business trips, weekends apart, even right after our engagement dinner. It was like discovering your house has termites. Everything looked solid, but underneath it was crumbling. My hand trembled as I scrolled. Late night calls. Lunchtime calls. Once at 3 a.m., I remembered that night. She'd said she had insomnia. I made her tea and rubbed her back while she stared off into the distance. I thought I was comforting her. She was probably just waiting for me to fall asleep so she could call him. I closed the tab. It wasn't proof of a physical affair. Not yet. But it was enough to feel like my trust had been dragged out into the street and run over. And the worst part, she was still texting me sweet nothings like everything was fine. The next evening, I sat across from her on the couch. She had just come back from her sister's. No suitcase, just her purse. Like she hadn't disappeared for 4 days. Like she hadn't left me drowning in my own paranoia while texting Ryan under the covers. She greeted me with a kiss on the forehead and a soft, I missed you. I looked at her for a second too long. You okay? She asked, curling her legs underneath her like nothing was wrong. I cleared my throat. Can I ask you something? I tried to keep my tone neutral, but my voice betrayed me. She tilted her head. Of course. Are you seeing anyone else? I asked, her eyes widen, not with guilt, but offense. What? She let out a short, breathy laugh. Where is this coming from? I didn't blink. Ryan! Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. She let out another laugh, louder this time, and forced. Are you serious right now? I just need to know. She stood up, crossed her arms. You really think I'd cheat on you? After everything? After planning a wedding with you? She looked genuinely hurt. Like I'd accused her of a crime she couldn't even comprehend. And in that moment, part of me almost believed her. Almost. But I had already seen the logs. I had already seen the photo. The texts. This wasn't an innocent woman defending her character. This was a professional actress protecting a storyline and watching her lie so fluidly. So effortlessly. That's when it truly broke me, because it meant she never thought I'd find out. After that night, I stopped asking questions. Not because I believed her, but because I knew her answers weren't worth anything anymore. I didn't sleep. I barely ate. I went to work, came home, and stared at the woman I was supposed to marry, wondering how long she'd been playing this game. I needed proof. Real, undeniable, can't weasel out of it proof. So I called my cousin, Aaron. He's an IT guy, smart, discreet, and has seen his fair share of relationship wreckage. I told him everything. He didn't judge, just sighed and said, "Let me see what I can do." A day later, he walked me through how to restore deleted messages from her iCloud backup. Elena had a bad habit of leaving her devices synced. Her iPad still auto-connected to the home Wi-Fi. When she went out for dress fittings on Saturday, I sat at the dining table and opened her tablet. My hands were shaking, but the messages came up easily. Too easily. What I read hollowed me out. There were weeks of texts between her and Ryan, flirty, familiar, intimate. Things like, "You make me feel alive again," and "I hate lying to him, but I can't lose you." Screenshots of memes they laughed at. Inside jokes. Even plans to meet up after the honeymoon, as if she was going to marry me and keep him on the side. And then there was the worst one. "He's so in love with me." It's kind of sad. I stared at that line for 10 minutes. That's how she saw me. Not as her partner. Not as her safe place. As a gullible prop in her double life. At first, I thought this was just a fling, a weak moment, a mistake she'd spiral from. But the deeper I dug, the clearer it became. This wasn't chaos. It was a strategy. In one message to Ryan, she wrote, "If I push the wedding back a few months, it won't look suspicious. I just need more time." More time for what? To sort out who she'd rather be with? To see which of us would offer the better lifestyle? Because that's what it felt like. A calculated, disgusting audition. One guy for stability, one guy for passion. One for the photos, the ring, the public posts. And one for the real her. She never once talked about breaking things off with me. She just wanted to delay the marriage. Keep the public image going while living two lives. The messages made it sound like she was balancing a work project, not a human heart. And Ryan, he wasn't some oblivious bystander. He was in on it. In one text, he joked, "Just don't let him walk in on us during the vows." She replied, "LOL, stop. Don't make me feel guilty now." Now she wanted to feel guilty. I closed the iPad, numb. I wasn't just cheated on. I was managed, handled, lied to with precision and purpose, like my feelings were just another variable in her schedule. That's when something in me snapped. Not in anger. Not even in heartbreak, but in resolve. She wanted to play both sides. I was about to show her what it looked like when one of them walks away. Quietly. From that moment on, I didn't confront her. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I became still, and methodical. She was expecting confusion. A slow unraveling. Tears, accusations, maybe even begging. But what she got was silence. Every morning, I kissed her cheek and asked about the florist. Every night, I listened to her talk about bridesmaid drama. I smiled, nodded, pretended to care. But behind my eyes, I was gone. I started with the bank. I quietly opened a new checking account and moved my direct deposit. Closed our shared savings account under the excuse of reorganizing finances for the wedding. She didn't even ask questions. Next, I called the honeymoon resort and canceled the reservation. The refund went directly into my new account. Then I backed up everything, the texts, the call logs, the screenshots. I uploaded them to a private folder labeled insurance, not to use them. Just to remind myself I wasn't crazy. I canceled my groomsman tux rental. I told my mom everything. Her hands shook as I explained what was happening, but she didn't interrupt. When I was done, she only said, "You don't owe anyone a scene. Just don't let her steal one more day from you." That's when I knew I wasn't going to fight her. I was going to disappear. No warnings. No drama. She wanted two lives? Let her live both, without me in either. I thought I'd already seen the worst of it. I thought nothing else could surprise me. But then, on a random Thursday night, I saw a new message pop up while she was in the shower. Her iPad lit up across the room. She'd forgotten to turn off notifications. I wasn't even trying to snoop at that point. I'd already made my decision. But the message flashed bold and clear. Can't wait till he's finally out of the picture. Ryan. I stared at it for a moment, letting it land. A few seconds later, another message followed. Patience, babe. I've got it under control. Her words. She wasn't trying to choose between two people. She was just trying to time her switch, wrap up the performance before diving into her real life, like I was just an event she needed to finish. I put the iPad down and walked to the bathroom door. I could hear her singing softly behind it, off-key, carefree, like she didn't have a single thing to hide in the world. I didn't say a word. I didn't storm in. I just stood there, hand on the doorframe, staring through the wood like it held all the answers. That's when the rage left me completely. There was no fire, no heartbreak, just a void. She wasn't mine anymore. She hadn't been for a long time. She'd just been wearing the costume, and now? I didn't even want an apology. I just wanted out. The night before her bridal shower, I watched her twirl in front of the hallway mirror, glowing in a white rehearsal dress she bought just for the occasion. Do I look bridal enough? She giggled, spinning once. I stared at her, numb. I had no words left. Just a nod. She didn't notice how quiet I was. Or maybe she didn't care. She was too busy texting her bridesmaids, coordinating mimosas and playlists. I watched her move through the room like she was living a dream, while I stood on the edge of a nightmare I hadn't even told anyone about. She tried to cuddle me that night. I gently pulled away and said I was tired. Truth is, I couldn't stand to be touched by her anymore. The warmth was fake. The softness was a lie. I lay in the guest room staring at the ceiling, counting the hours. It hit me then. How many times I'd forgiven her for subtle things. The way she rolled her eyes when I talked about my long workdays. How she never once thanked me for paying off the venue. How she joked that she settled for a man who wasn't 6 feet tall. All of it was leading to this. I had poured everything into a future with her, and she treated it like a side project. I didn't cry. I just laid there blank, exhausted from carrying a heart she had already smashed. This was my rock bottom. Not the betrayal itself, but the realization that I had let it happen. Slowly, silently, by making excuses for her over and over, I thought I was building a life with her. But I had been building a cage, and by morning, I was going to walk out of it. The morning of her bridal shower, the sun hadn't even risen when I slipped out of bed. Well, her bed. I hadn't slept in it for days. Everything was ready. My bag was packed. The documents, the messages, the screenshots, all saved and backed up. My new apartment lease had been signed the day before. Utilities transferred, mail forwarded. My mother would return the tux. My groomsmen were already informed. All that was left was to leave. I stood in the kitchen one last time, the smell of her lavender candles still lingering in the air. I placed my house key on the marble counter. Beside it, I left her iPad, open to the thread of text she never thought I'd see. No note, no message, just the truth. She'd spent so long crafting lies, manipulating the story. But I wasn't going to give her a breakup speech she could twist. She would wake up to silence, and that silence would scream. I walked out the door with no plan to ever return. No final glance, no hesitation. By the time she opened her eyes, I was across town, checking into a furnished rental I'd booked for the next 2 months. I turned my phone off and let it vibrate into the void. She called 12 times in the first hour. By the 5th voicemail, she was crying. By the 10th, she was angry. By the 12th, she was desperate. But I didn't listen, not because I hated her, but because nothing she could say would be more honest than what I'd already seen, and I had given enough of my life to a lie. I didn't go to the bridal shower, but everyone else did. Her parents showed up, her friends, her bridesmaids, even Ryan apparently, all of them expecting brunch, champagne, and pretty little favors with our names on them. Instead, they got a missing groom and an open secret that had finally run out of room to hide. By mid-morning, my phone started buzzing with messages from numbers I didn't recognize. What's going on? Are you okay? Elena's freaking out, call me. I didn't answer a single one. Later I found out, through screenshots and whispers from mutual friends, what happened in that living room. Elena tried to smile through it. He's just sick, she said at first. A stomach bug. But then someone, one of her own bridesmaids, opened her iPad and showed everyone the texts I'd left up. The room went dead. Her mother started crying. Ryan slipped out the back door. Guests were whispering, pointing, covering their mouths. The perfect little narrative she'd built for months had imploded in under 10 minutes. She had to stand there in her white rehearsal dress and answer questions she never expected to face. And me? I was sitting in a quiet coffee shop 2 neighborhoods away, watching the rain streak down the window, sipping black coffee I hadn't tasted in years. My hands were steady. My chest felt light. For the first time in months, my head wasn't spinning. I didn't need to expose her. I didn't need revenge. I just had to let the truth walk into the room without me. And it did. By the next morning, my phone was a graveyard of missed calls and unread texts. Her dad. Her mom. Her cousins. Our mutual friends. Even people I hadn't spoken to in years, all suddenly concerned, curious, or apologetic. Some messages were angry. You humiliated her. Others were full of guilt. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. The one that stung the most came from her maid of honor. You didn't deserve this. She's been playing both sides for months. I didn't reply to any of them because no one had reached out when she was pulling away. No one checked on me when I was working 14-hour days to pay for a wedding she didn't believe in. No one asked how I was when I looked like a ghost sitting across from her at dinner. Now that the explosion had happened, they wanted to pick through the rubble, but I had already left the building. Even Ryan tried texting me. I stared at his name on my screen, bold and shameless. Didn't mean for things to go down like this. What did he mean for them to do? Quietly keep using me as a placeholder while he played secret boyfriend? I deleted the message without reading further. Elena sent a voice note 3 days later, sobbing, incoherent, full of half-excuses and unfinished apologies. I didn't press play, because the point wasn't whether she was sorry. The point was that she did it, anyway, and no amount of regret was going to rebuild the version of me she shattered. A week passed before I let myself cry, not because I missed her, but because I finally stopped pretending I was okay. Sat alone on the floor of my new apartment, surrounded by unopened boxes and echoes of a future that no longer existed. I didn't cry for her. I cried for me, for the version of myself that loved blindly, gave endlessly, and still got left behind in the worst way. But when the tears dried, I felt something else rush in to take their place. Peace. Not loud. Not cinematic, just steady. I realized something then. Forgiveness isn't about letting someone back in. It's about refusing to carry the weight they tried to dump on you. I didn't hate Elena. Hating her would still mean giving her space in my mind. I just didn't owe her anything anymore. Not a reply, not a response, not a reaction. She kept trying. Messages every few days. Voice notes. Even a letter left at my old place begging for a conversation, telling me she made a mistake and got confused and wanted to make things right. But it wasn't confusion. It was choice. And my choice now was distance, no more fixing, no more explaining, no more bleeding for people who don't even bring a bandage. I forgave her quietly, not for her peace, but for mine, because forgiveness is never about forgetting. It's about freeing yourself from the prison they built inside you, and I had already served more than enough time. It's been 8 months. I haven't seen her, haven't heard her voice, and I don't need to. People still send me updates now and then, though I never ask. Her job started cutting back hours. Ryan moved to another city. A few of her old friends quietly unfollowed her. The wedding venue never refunded the full deposit. She's back living with her parents, the same ones who once asked me if I was good enough for her. Funny how tables turn when no one's left at them. I never got my apology. Not a real one, at least. But I've come to understand something. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you build yourself, out of boundaries, silence, and self-respect. People ask me if I regret walking away without making a scene. If I wish I had blown it up, called her out in front of everyone, exposed her publicly, I don't, because leaving quietly, letting her sit in the echo of her own choices, that was louder than anything I could have said. There's power in knowing the truth. There's peace in not needing to prove it. And there's freedom in choosing yourself when someone else tried to make you forget how. I'm not bitter. I'm not broken. I'm just done explaining. Done proving. Done chasing people who treat love like a game and loyalty like a leash. So if you're reading this, and you're holding on to someone who keeps slicing you open and handing you the knife to apologize, let go. Let them drown in the mess they made. You were always the escape plan, not the prisoner.